Hey guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jacinho. So this is going to be the post-match show for Arsenal versus Newcastle. We won the game, so good for us, 2-0. And it was pretty smooth sailing, I would say. We didn't really have that many issues. And, this game really didn't tell us much about anything new about this team. We know we can beat the smaller teams if we just finish our chances and keep our heads. But I think it was it was like a pretty boring game, but it did speak volumes about the importance of Thursday for me. And it introduced some headaches for Arteta and his team selection for Thursday. So I think in that respect, it was a little bit more interesting. So of course, we're going to talk about the game, but we're probably going to talk more about what does this mean for Thursday, because we all know that that's really what we're playing for. And I have a special guest today. I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. It's Deluded Gooner. Hey.
Oh, thanks for introducing me so nicely, man. You're right.
I'm like, well, you're not deluded, obviously, so it's kind of ironic, but how are you?
I'm good. Like I was saying off air, we won on Sunday, so I can't complain. Thursday's a different story, but we live in the moment as an Arsenal fan, so I'm gravy right now.
Yeah, I get you. I'm just kind of living for Thursday to see what mood I'm going to be in, like, after that game. But this game was okay. I actually missed like 30 minutes of it because obviously they were showing all the stuff that was happening at Old Trafford. So I was like, okay, well, we're not really going to get to see our game, right? But I think ultimately we played okay, but how important was it for us to get that win going into Thursday? I think we needed that confidence boost a little bit.
I mean, you said it there. It's vital that anytime you can pick up a win is vital. And like, against Fulham and Everton, we didn't do exactly that. A win can always breed confidence. With every loss, the fans can doubt the team more. We already know where we're at with them, but they start to doubt themselves. I don't want to read too much into it because, again, like Sheffield United, like West Bromwich Albion in December, it's a team we should beat. It's a team that ain't playing for much. I know they're just about on top of the relegation places, but it's a team that we should be winning. It's a team that sat back against us, and even on our worst days, we can beat teams that find a way to be worse than us. So I don't think it reads too much, but as you said, any confidence is good. It gives us confidence. Apart from Louise, we came through it unscathed. Aubameyang grabbed his goal, so can't really complain.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't think we can look at that and say like, okay, yeah, we're definitely going to beat Villarreal on Thursday. I think it's important for us to play a team that we kind of think we can beat, before we play against Villarreal. Like, last thing we want to do is get battered by Liverpool or something like that right before this game. So I think it was the perfect game for us to get a little bit of confidence. But how surprised were you at all the changes? Arteta has he's been kind of inflexible in terms of like, okay, so we have games in Europe, and then we have games in the league that we're not really playing for anything in, and he still plays strong lineups. I have expected to see Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe. What do you think? Were you kind of surprised at all the changes? I think we had like 8 or something like that.
You said it there. Generally, it's very hard to tell who Arteta really likes, who he doesn't. He's, 1 minute he doesn't change, then he changes every week. I did expect changes because obviously I never like to say we're playing for nothing in the league. We're playing for pride, but for want of better phrases, the league is gone. So I expected to see change. I did like you. I thought Saka or Smith-Rowe might play, but I'm happy that they played no significant minutes. I'm happy for Aubameyang. He looks fitter than what were led to believe. So I can't really complain. I expected changes. He kind of needed to double down on Thursday. We all know Thursday's the result. Granted, if we lost, I'm pretty sure we'd be sat here. We'd have a bit more to speak about, but it wouldn't do too much. We're doubling down on Thursday, so I expected rotation, and I would have loved David Luiz to play against Villarreal. Unfortunately, he picked up a knock, but excluding that, we did all right.
Yeah, for sure. I think Arteta just wants to make sure that the team stays with the continuity and kind of can continue on with their form. It's difficult because I don't think this team is good at chopping and changing. So if you do make big changes, then it's kind of like you lose everything. We kind of saw that against, I think it was like Southampton in the FA Cup. We thought we put out a good enough team, obviously, to win that game, and they bombed out.
Terrible,
So I think Arteta knows that this team can't chop and change. And if you're the players that are coming in for games that kind of don't matter, what is your incentive of playing? So if you're playing with Willian and kids, do you really think that you're important to this team? So I think it's important to play a semi-strong lineup, but you could tell, I think this is the first game that we've played where Arteta's actually made it obvious that Europa League is actually what we're playing for.
We're gonna have a choice.
Yeah, for sure. This is it. This really is it. And we still got an injury, which is unfortunate, but for the most part, we came out, as you said, unscathed. But we had an uncharacteristic fast start. Usually, we're so slow out of the gates. We're like turtles out of the gates, So was that just kind of due to Newcastle being so bad, or were we actually good? And why is it so difficult for us to start games quickly?
It's the age-old question, man. There's many things you could ask the question with Arteta. Arteta's got a lot to answer for with that. I'd say for the players, inability to focus, inability to get them individually, get themselves prepared for games. That's why, we start well. Sometimes we don't finish well, or we start slow and then end a bit better. So I would say that. I was impressed yesterday as well in terms of we actually made changes. We looked quite fluid, really, really and truly in that regard. It's the age-old question. We're the best team in the world when there's no pressure on us. As you know, on one hand, going into it, Newcastle's form was better than ours. We can't pick up a win. As we both said, Europa League's the target. So I would have thought, I did expect to see a lot more from Newcastle. Like I said, they're potentially safe. Mathematically, Fulham can get out of that. And then we played into their hands. If you're not going to press us and you're going to give us time on the ball and whatnot, we're going to look good. Bellerin's going to overlap. Our midfielders are going to look good. We're going to have a great performance. So I think it was a case of playing a team that was, kind of respected us too much, kind of sat back and played into our hands. I think, you can only play what's in front of you. We were good, but it's one of them games where you can't learn too much about Arsenal because the pressure was not really on, really and truly, if I'm honest with you.
That's so true. I was saying that when we played against West Ham, and obviously we tied that game and it was like the craziest game, but I was like, the only reason why we got back into that game was because they sat off. As soon as they got the 3 goals, they sat off and then we could play our game. If you get in with us and you start to press us, we're not as confident on the ball. We only have a couple of players that play well under pressure, like a handful that you can really count on. So I think they did play into our hands, but I didn't expect them to do anything different because they're not a very good side. Steve Bruce is very, if you want to call him pragmatic, I don't know if that's really what you want to call him, but he's very risk adverse, and no Willock, no problems. As long as Willock can play against us, I really wasn't scared of any of them at all. I think their team is so bad. Newcastle is just one of those teams. I forget about them all the time, because I think there's actually better teams that are below them. They just can't score.
You reckon?
Fulham,
who? Because
Fulham,
I like Fulham.
I think they're better teams. I think they're better teams for me. Like in terms of if I have to choose between watching Fulham or Brighton play or Newcastle, I'm definitely going to watch Fulham.
I don't know. I'm a fan of St. Maximin, man. That was a good point as well. We kept him quiet yesterday. One of the only players they've really got to make something happen. I did like the individual performances from a couple. I do think there was a couple of times Newcastle could have scared us, like Bellerin was over covering. I hear what you're saying about Newcastle, and I somewhat agree. But for me personally, I thought they would have forget how poor they were. I thought they would have asked questions because of how poor we are. Like you look at the last 5 games, they've actually picked up a better points tally than us. So they played into our hands a bit like when we played them in the FA Cup and a bit like when we played them at the Emirates in the league. When the minute they start to try and open up and sit back at us, we're poor, but we can still cut teams open and do what we need to do.
Yeah, for sure. Would you take Saint Maximum at Arsenal? I know a lot of Arsenal fans rate him very highly. Isn't he not like kind of similar to Pepe in some ways?
I mean, yeah, you're right in that he can, he's frustrating. You can see a player in there. I would take him for the squad because we don't have players that are brave and players that have ability. But for the price tag, he's probably going to commence. There's no point. Might as well leave him alone and either give our young players something or scout someone who has the profile to be such. But he's a good player. If the penny drops, he won't be at Newcastle long.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he'll end up at like I don't know, like a top 8 team. I don't see any of the bigger teams going for him, but I think he can do more, but there's about 27 of you guys watching right now. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Come on.
And we will keep rolling on. So one of them, I personally, I thought that this Martinelli was probably the only person that was like interesting to watch in that game. Like everybody else is like, whatever. But Martinelli was a bright spot. He was really good, really direct, aggressive, got the assist for Aubameyang's goal. And who was the guy that was playing against him? Their fullback could not handle him.
Josh
He was
Murphy.
getting killed. Yeah, he was getting killed. Like
Okay,
Martinelli
yeah,
had
he
him
didn't
on
have a
toast,
nice day at all.
I've always been kind of vocal about how I don't really agree with all of the, Arteta hates Martinelli and he has this vendetta against Martinelli and all this. I just kind of think he had a horrendous injury and I think he could have brought him in sooner. Like he brought in Smith Rowe. He could have brought in Smith Rowe a little bit sooner. Maybe he was a little overly cautious to bring the young players back in. But let's, be honest, he's had a very horrendous injury and it took him a while to get back up to pace. And I also think that maybe he struggles with the tactics. Arteta asked a lot of his players, and Martinelli is really like natural instinct type of player. He kind of just gets the ball and runs with it. Arteta has very specific instructions for the players that maybe he just wasn't getting up until now, but he was a really bright spot and pretty much the only interesting thing to watch. What are your thoughts on Arteta's treatment of Martinelli? Like, where do you kind of sit on that topic?
Girl, I'm on the fence with it because obviously I hear the fans and I agree with the fans. Whenever I always say the person who's not involved, there's always going to be that question. And in an ideal world, we should always be complaining someone isn't involved because that means we have good players. I love Martinelli. I just feel there's a lot of, when there's a lot of romance around the player, the Martinellis, the Balligans, we get so caught up in the players they're going to be tomorrow. You're not looking at the steps that they need to do today. Personally, I agree with him taking time with his injury and stuff, but I'll never know how much he's moved on, but I don't think it's an injury thing. I just think, like you said, it's a tactical thing. Rightly or wrongly, he deems that these other options historically are better tactical fits. So it's down to Martinelli it's down to Arteta to just understand Martinelli is one of your best players, but it's also down to Martinelli it's a give or take game. Arteta kind of indirectly spoke about how Xhaka and Martinelli worked well. Tierney and him don't necessarily work well. So that's something for Martinelli to improve on. I see Martinelli as someone that's able to play across all front three positions, whether he's a striker, able to play on the flanks, or a left winger, able to play in the others. We've got to take our time with him. There's even been times he hasn't had the best of games or he's needed to improve a bit. Like, he was superb yesterday. But if I'm honest with you, you needed the first 5, 10, 20 minutes, he was a bit hot and cold. He was going past his man, but his touch was letting him down. I do think Arteta was telling him to hug the touchline, and I think the minute he stopped doing that and mixed it up a bit, sometimes he was doing that, sometimes going in behind, he killed Josh Murphy. Going into the game, you look at Murphy, he's a right winger playing at fullback. We had Xhaka playing as a left back. I said the team that makes either one look like they're out of position is the one that's winning, and Martinelli had him on toast. He should have had another assist if Ceballos, could tuck his dinner away. But it's an exciting performance. But Martinelli's got a long way to go. His intensity is amazing. Everything about Martinelli is lovely. And clearly it's getting to Arteta because he indirectly spoke about it. He's like, I promise I love him more than you lot. Like, if you love him, play him. But it's one of the only great questions we can ask, really and truly. We want the young lad to play, and he's got all the ability in the world. And I think he had a good game against Newcastle.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with Arteta on just, the whole, if it's not this person, it's the other person. If this person isn't playing, then why is it, why aren't you playing him? It's just, I think you're using it as a stick to beat Arteta. I think we're all some people are looking for a reason to be upset about something. Martinelli's been good. And of course, he has a bright future if he can stay healthy. You have to remember Arteta also played with Jack Wilshere, and he talks about that a lot. I don't think he wants to have another Jack Wilshere on his hands, that he overplayed or whatever, So Martinelli has such a bright future, but to me, he's still really raw. Him and Pepe have probably more talent and higher ceilings than maybe Saka and Emil Smith Rowe to me in certain ways, but they're still so raw, so we don't know if they're going to get there. That's why I think Saka and Emil Smith Rowe play, because they're a little bit more developed. But they have all the talent there. They just need to hone it. And I think Arteta does like them. He needs to go with what's a little bit more safe, because let's be real, we're in like a really bad position. So we can't always be experimenting, but I agree with you. I think Martinelli had a really good game, and hopefully he gets more playing time. But does he start for you on Thursday?
Age-old question. For me, he probably does, just because I think Xhaka has to play centre mid. And I think, out of everyone, I don't mind if Cedric does it. Xhaka, I'll always support him in that role. But for me, I think Saka in that role. You have Saka out there. Xhaka moves to the left-hand side anyways. You've got Martinelli on the left. You've got Aubameyang for your pressing. I think you play these players. So for Martinelli and Aubameyang start for me on Thursday. But it's probably naive. Martinelli probably returns to the bench.
Yeah, 100%. I think I would start, like you said, Martinelli and Aubameyang, and just put Saka on the right and call it a day. but we're not going to see that. I know we're not going to see that. It'll either be
100%.
Pepe or Emil Smith-Rowe or something like that, which I'm okay with, because Martinelli off the bench is a good thing. But, I think next season is when we're going to see more of Martinelli. And I think that
Hope
makes
so.
more sense because Lacazette should be gone. Maybe Eddie is gone, so I think he'll get more playing time. So I'm not too worried about him. I'm just happy to see that he's healthy. He is the kind of player, though. He seems I don't know if he was doing this a lot last season, but he seems like he likes a little dramatics, when he gets fouled. He always kind of needs a little bit of treatment and
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. But I kind of like that about him a little bit, but
Facts.
let's see. Were you disappointed about like seeing Ceballos at all? Like for me, if it was up to me, I would have left him in Spain because I mean
Now they
he's
took
been
his passport as well, to be fair.
he's so annoying. Like I don't want to be harsh on him, but I just think this loan has really ran its course and it's ran its course for a while. He hasn't been good all season. And just to see him, like when the lineup came out last Thursday and I was looking at it, he was the odd man out for me. I was like, why is he starting him? Because he's single-handedly been trying to get us kicked out of the Europa League. Like he has been, and I think he's a good technical player, but he loses his head. And you could tell he was going to get the red card. So for me, it wasn't so much the red card. It was just he really didn't play well. He got exposed. And I was kind of shocked to see him play, against Newcastle. But were you surprised that he started? And do you think that would have been like a good opportunity to maybe play Aziz? We're not really playing for anything. Like, I just don't understand why he's still playing.
Miguel Aziz played on Saturday for the under 23, so I thought he would never be involved. Plus, as much as I like Aziz, I would like for him the foundations and the environment that we throw these guys into to be all right. I know we've got the Sakas and these guys that thrive in and amongst chaos, but it is a pet peeve of mine in relation to these young players. In relation to Ceballos playing on Sunday, I mean, the form he's in, nobody really wants to see his face, but realistically, I didn't think Partey would start. It did shock me not seeing him. We ain't got many options. I thought, Ceballos cannot play on Thursday, as you know, because rather on a stupid one, he got sent off. So I did expect him to play. I actually feel he had a better performance. He had a better reaction. It's not, he's not going to change my thoughts on him. Like you said, the technical ability is there. You're definitely a good footballer, but something's missing. And arguably, since you've come to the Emirates, I'm pretty sure many Arsenal fans that were interested in Real Madrid, they can see why you're not starting week in, week out for Real Madrid or don't have a sniff of it. Things can change, but great footballer, extremely naive. Like you said, bit of maturity. If you're going to play for Madrid as a centre midfielder, there's going to be times you're going to get a card. So to see him on Thursday, be on a card, make a tackle, actually get away with that tackle, Arteta needs to take him off, but Ceballos needs to be sensible. And you saw what happened other than that. Like you said, the loan spell hasn't worked out. We paid a couple of million for it, but it might as well have been 10 million because it's expensive. And yeah, man, the sooner he's gone, the better, really.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. I look at him and I'm like, you have so much natural talent, but I think his mindset is not quite there to play at an elite level. I think he's a big fish in a small pond type of guy. He
Needs his ego rubbed all the time, yeah.
Exactly. He needs to be at like a Betis or something like that where he can be the best player on the team. He won't thrive in Real Madrid type of environment. And he just comes off a little bit like a dick. Like, you know what I mean? He just comes off kind of like that guy, So not feeling him right now. And I was like a big Ceballos person, like when he first came.
Same.
Very disappointed. But if you had to rate his 2-year loan spell, what would you rate it out of 10?
It's between a 3 and a 4. I give him a 4 because he has won the FA Cup. No, it is because I can't sit here and say a 5 because you're a Spanish international. You've played in the Champions League. You've technically won it at Real Madrid, but you've never been a main part. I wanted to see a Real Madrid player in and amongst Arsenal peasants. I don't see that. I haven't seen that. There's been no real consistency from him. So it's a 3-4. At times you've been out of the team from El Nene. You're kind of the game's passing him by. It's a 3-4. It's a 3 or 4. There's no way you can have a 5. It's a 3 or a 4. He won the FA Cup, so from a personal point of 5. But nah, that's dead, man. 3-4.
He has like no goals.
It's dead, man. It's dead.
It's one goal, like 2 assists. He's just been so disappointing. I watched the clips, watched him in the under 21s, whatever for Spain. I'm thinking we're getting a baller.
Baller, innit?
That's no. We
Like,
got sold a Bill of Dreams in that.
look at the conversation we're having. We should be begging this man to stay at the football club. Like, I like his ability. I actually like the fact he's a bit of a dick. It's just you need to be a baller. Like, we have too many soft players. I like him, but it's all fun and games doing stepovers against Newcastle. You got to do it week in, week out. He's lost his place in the Spain squad, so you would have thought the penny would drop. He needs to go back to, and again, I have to question his mentality because we all knew he was never going to end up permanent here. But I mean, the season's not done. You're talking about, yeah, I like the Prem, but La Liga's my more sort of style. You're already showing that your head's gone. And again, even if it's not, you're allowing fans to have the very conversation we're having now. It's silly.
I've been saying that for weeks. Like Ceballos, his life is in ruin. You know, he's in London. He's 24, 25 years old. You should kind of know where you're going to be at. You're still being loaned out. You know, Real Madrid doesn't want you. You know, Arsenal doesn't want you either. And you're not going to make the Euros. So for me, I'm looking at him, and because of his personality, he's just lost. You know, I don't know what's going to happen with him, but I don't really care after this. He just needs to pack his and go, you know, because he's on my last nerve. But let's talk about Xhaka a little bit. So he's playing at left back and he's doing okay, and obviously he's probably going to play there against Villarreal. Are you like, okay, so why can't Cedric play there? Why is he being iced out? And do you think that we're asking for trouble putting him at left back again?
I mean, you know, if you get burned and you put your hand on the fire again, whose fault is that? And again, if it works, it works. This is a gamble that he's going into. I have to think, you know, Arteta is allowed to reserve the right to play whoever he wants, wherever he wants, but it needs to work. I don't get it with Xhaka because not only are you exposing him, you're isolating him in wide areas where people can get him. And, you know, regardless of what you may think about Xhaka or your plans to play him at left back, we lose a lot out of our midfield. It's his job to mitigate against that, and he hasn't done it. I do think he'll go with Xhaka because he's doubled down on it. That's clearly what he's more comfortable with. But for me, I would be up for Cedric. I would say, I know I really don't want Saka to go there, but Saka for me is the most natural. He provides the width. Obviously, when we're playing out from the back, he's not using his right foot on the left-hand side. Xhaka peels out there. He'll be protected. Again, we saw what happened with Chukwueze. You know, the minute Xhaka's pulled out wide, Marie also, who lacks pace, pulled out wide. There's an issue there. I don't know what Cedric's done because with Arteta, you don't know what he's doing. 1 minute Bellerin's in, week out, then he's frozen out. You know, we've had Maitland-Niles. We've now had Chambers in and out. I don't know what he is. You know, on one hand, I personally believe he's not convinced on anybody, and I wouldn't be either, but I don't understand. And I know football isn't a simple game, but sometimes 1 + 1 has to equal 2, and I don't think he's going to do that. I really don't think he's going to do that. So I don't know what Cedric's done. Maybe he's not done something in training. Maybe he's not been in a match he's played. There's been a problem. I can't imagine there's a single player that can't be said for. I don't know. It's for Arteta to mention, but I just have to say, from a fan, he deems that, you know, Cedric isn't the tactical fit. It won't give him what Xhaka can give him at left back. He's crazy.
He loves Granit Xhaka. Like, he trusts him with everything. You know, if we didn't have a striker, he'd probably try him at some point. I'm sure if he needed a goalkeeper, he'd put him in there because he loves it. I think it's just because he probably reminds him of him. When I look at Xhaka, I think of Arteta at Arsenal. I really do. I'm like, because I did not rate him at Arsenal at all. I couldn't stand him. You know, I did not like Arteta at Arsenal, but that's like a whole nother story. But I think Arteta has an issue with the fullbacks, you know, because he doesn't have a natural left back cover. And then the 3 that we have for the right back, none of them are perfect. Chambers is okay. You know, he's just fine. Cedric is just okay. And Bellerin has fallen off of a cliff. But one thing I don't love about Arteta is his icing people out. When you do that, you can't bring them back in. I think even if he wanted to bring Cedric back in, could you trust him after you iced him out for so long? Because if you're willing to play a center midfielder, like, that's super slow and error prone in your position, like, you're a natural fullback. At least Cedric is a natural fullback. What does that say to you? Like, what does that say to you? You know, so
you're not trusted. So hopefully when you get your chance, go and do it. But that just tells me he's playing favorites.
It was that Slavia Prague game, the first leg, that one mistake at the very end. I think it was that, you know, and I mean, he had a couple of those because he had one against Aston Villa as well. That was a little, but you can just kind of chalk that up to like him and Gabriel, you know, weirdness with the different feet, you know, like, what do I do? You know, but I would prefer to see
I think
Cedric
it's the
there.
build-up play. Now that I think about it, I think it's the build-up play. I just think when he's always checking in on his right foot, that kind of stifles us playing out from the back. Now that I look at it, but apart from that, I don't know, man. What I would say is, Cedric was brought in to be a squad player. He was kind of expected to play these sort of appearances. I don't get it, but I hope for if he does get to play, the penny drops and you show Arteta why he's bugging out and doing what he's doing.
I mean, that was the PR, the marketing. He can play both left and right side. So
you're right on that.
That's what I heard, but now I don't see it anymore.
Now you think
but
you're actually right. I completely forgot about that.
That's what they told us. He can play left and right back, so I mean, he's not Cancelo levels. We know that. He's like a couple notches below that.
Yeah, a couple notches below that as well. Really.
I'm done. But I mean, he made the Portugal squad just off of doing that for a couple weeks.
That's true. That's true. But they got Ronaldo. We got. I don't want to do anyone dirty. I was going to mention a certain player, but yeah, the poor players we have.
This is so true. But so with Xhaka at left back, then we know that probably El Neni will play with Thomas because Ceballos is suspended. But could this be like a kind of like a good combination? I think we've seen in the past that Thomas plus El Neni is okay. It works. Do you think that'll work against Villarreal? And for you, what does the Thomas Partey partner look like long term?
I mean,
it's definitely not El Neni.
Yeah, it's definitely not him, and it's got to work in it. If it doesn't work, we're out. What I will give them, obviously El Nene's a bit, for as much as I like him, and I think every Arsenal fan likes him, we're happy he scored. He's almost like a fan. If we're real with ourselves, he hides a lot. He doesn't offer much in terms of progressive passing. He can psychologically doubt himself. He looks like he suffers from an inferior complex. That being said, I actually trust El Nene more than Ceballos because El Nene, I never have to question his commitment. When I looked at that Villarreal game, it looked like our midfielders needed to do more in terms of helping out our fullbacks. El Nene has energy. He does work with Partey. It's not the most expansive, but it's shown that it can do a job really and truly. So I'm not really for it. In terms of an ideal partner for Thomas Partey, in terms of specifics, I'm not sure, but ideally it would be someone who could play on the left-hand side, someone who, it could be a Basuma, that's 2 6s, but again, there's going to be games when we play a low block, we don't need Partey and Basuma. It's not so much a partner for Partey, we need midfielders who complement. You look at our midfield, El Nene is probably our top goal scorer currently in this squad, Joe Willock's on loan. We don't score, we don't create, we don't dictate the tempo of the game, we're not solid defensively. What is our midfield about? You mentioned earlier Arteta. He was a midfielder, and I've been saying on my channel from the jump, logically, that's the position I'm going to look at you more because if I'm taking over a club, I was a right back. I'm going to make sure the fullbacks are the greatest because that's what you look to. So I'm not too sure what our midfield's about. So I think we need another 6. I think we need another 8. I don't necessarily think we need a 10 with Smith Rowe and if we can keep Odegaard, but we don't have enough options, man. We really don't. I'd say someone that's just a bit more expansive. Someone that does what Xhaka does without the shortcomings of Granit Xhaka, the obvious cons to his game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, but everybody on my channel knows that I'm like huge Basuma fan. Like if we don't get him, I don't know if I'll survive it. I just don't. I don't know. I just don't know. Like I only watch Brighton to watch him play. Like I think he's so good.
Scouting
for real. But I think that's just because I know Thomas could do more. I think he's almost wasted playing as the lone 6. I really just think he needs to be able to go forward. And I think long term, when you build a complement of midfielders that are going to play together, I don't think Thomas will start all the time. I think it'll be a combination of different players. Hopefully we'll have an Awar type player as well that can play deeper, like as a deeper 8, or maybe Emil Smith Rowe can become that. But we have to have a complement, as you said. So for me, it's like if we could get Basuma because he's available, then we do that, but we'll still be missing some key components.
Just like when we signed Partey. Sorry to cut you off. Just like when we signed him.
Yeah, we knew like we need more than that, so hopefully we'll be able to get more than one midfielder. But if I had to choose one because, that's all we could do, I would probably choose Basuma because I couldn't stand to see him go somewhere else.
I'd choose Al.
See, a lot of people still want Awar. Like he's been dead this season. He has
even better for us, cheaper. I'm on that. It was always destined to happen. He wanted
to come too, which is crazy. I was like,
this is it.
He did kind of want to come. I think we do kind of need somebody like that too, because if you wanted to play like with Odegaard, Awar, and like a Basuma / Partey, that's the perfect balance of a midfield if you want to play more progressive, but we need more than just that, but we'll see what happens in the summer. I wouldn't be surprised if we went back in for a while because Arteta he wanted
That was his
him
guy,
more
isn't
than
it?
he
That's the
wanted
one he
Party.
wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But later, you guys, I'm going to be doing a Basuma transfer show. If you guys want to come back later, I'll be doing that and talk about Chesney as well because apparently we're linked with him again. It's weird.
Chesney back to Arsenal.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that, but more importantly, we'll be talking about Basuma. So you guys want to check back later for that. But you mentioned this about Luiz's injury, which is so unfortunate because I never thought I'd be dying for him to come back. Like, I could not wait for him to come back because I cannot watch Rob Holding kick the ball out
I like Holding, man. Don't do him dirty. I like Holding.
Okay,
I know he's not the greatest, but I like decided likable.
Every time he wears the captain's armband, we lose or he kicks the ball in the back of the net. But, of our own net, but hey, there's that. But how does that injury affect our play, in our next game and the selection for Thursday? Because that should probably, I would imagine that would affect Gabriel as well, because he doesn't necessarily play that well with Holding. So what do you think about that?
Well, it's like you said, it's no coincidence that, Gabriel and Holding are a bit hit and miss. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it works. It's no coincidence that fair play when Chambers came on, he did well, and he also did well with Gabriel. Gabriel still did well, but it's no coincidence. David Luiz back. Gabriel is shining. He's got that experienced partner. Also, Matt Ryan behind him, speaking to him in Portuguese and things. That's what Gabriel needs. He's still raw. He's 22, 23. He's going to have moments of madness. Obviously, it probably means Gabriel is not playing. I think Gabriel's our best centre-half, so he plays for me regardless. He's not going to play with Marie. I think he's going to... I think Arteta's going to double down and play the same back five he did. But I personally would take Marie out, go with Gabriel, especially if you're going to play Xhaka at left back, because he needs someone a bit mobile to help him. I think that's where we can say what we want about Granit Xhaka, but that's where it comes down to Arteta understanding these players and helping them. In relation to Luiz, as I said in my live streams and I said earlier, it's a bitter pill to swallow because he starts for me. Whatever man say about David Luiz, he's got character, and I think we're going to need it. When the time gets tough, he's going to try and play a difficult pass. This is a man that didn't train, took a painkilling injection to play in the FA Cup final against his former club. I think we're going to miss him. We're going to miss Tini, and we're going to miss Lacazette away from their ability and their form because of just how they get it. It's a game for bravery, and I don't know it. I don't know what we're going to do. I can see us scoring 2 goals, but what happens if they complicate and score? Are we going to let our heads drop? I see them three is pivotal to not allowing that to happen. Martinelli and Saka are of the same ilk, so we'll have to see. But it's a bitter pill to swallow without David Luiz, and I'm not sure because I think you have to go Gabriel. So I guess that means I'd probably go Gabriel and Holding. I don't mind Gabriel and Chambers, but again, it's a bit like Marie and Gabriel. Do you really want to test out a next partnership in a game like this? We've seen what experimenting at semi-finals does. It's not worth it at all.
Why? It's so bad. Everything is so bad. But I agree.
Terrible.
I think Gabriel has to play. Xhaka is going to be over there on the left, so Holding will play. I know that Gabriel had said that they have a communication issue. There's a language barrier there, so they need to work on that. But I think I've kind of, I hate to be like this person that kind of like flip-flops, but I've taken like a kind of a U-turn on David Luiz a little bit, because at the beginning of the season, I couldn't stand him. I wanted him gone, especially after, I couldn't believe, okay, so you like rewind it just a little bit, where we were after lockdown. Our very first game was obviously against Manchester City, and he just capitulates. He completely capitulates, and I'm like looking at Arteta, I'm like, he's going to embarrass you in front of your like old employers.
Your old friends and that, yeah.
It's embarrassing, and then he comes out after and he's like, oh, well, I was thinking about my contract. And after that, I was like, this guy's got to go. And then obviously he still stays, but then I'm thinking, okay, let's see what he has. I think he's been pretty good this season, despite the Wolves game and all that. I think he's been pretty good this season, and I'm starting to like him a little bit. He was very important in getting Saka to re-sign, which is good for us. And he's really good with the kids. Do you think it's worth it to give him a 1-year extension? I mean, we're seeing now that he has had some injuries, but maybe in some sort of a smaller role, and maybe to help Saliba, because I think Saliba needs to come back as well. Wouldn't Saliba maybe benefit from having David Luiz, coaching him up?
You're right about that. He would, but at the same time, you know, I'm a fan of David Luiz as much as I could say that he's still absolutely error prone. You know, he's still absolutely error prone. I like him, but I think it's time to move him on. You know, I do think he's pivotal. I do think Saliba needs a help. I describe that as a bridge player. He does need help, but we need to move him on. If I'm real, it's like with Lacazette, David Luiz, potentially even Callum Chambers and Mohamed El Nene. You know, I'm sure from a heart fan point of view, there's reasons to keep them. They might even from a tactical point of view, but I'd say these lot have played their way into the shop window. I'm all for keeping David Luiz if his role is marginalized, and it's not like when we're relying on a past it Koscielny. I think he is good in the dressing room. He does want to be a manager long term, so again, he could get his manager cap on and start helping our young players. He's clearly loved by the dressing room, but I just find myself hearing myself for the same players saying the same thing. Loved in the dressing room, good for the young players, good for the this, good for the that. As much as I believe in that, that should be a minimum for all these experienced players. If we go back to 04, you know, we're not going to keep, not that we could say this, but you're not going to not keep Vieira because he's good with the young players. It only goes so far, man. I like David Luiz, but it says more about our it says more about our club if we're relying on him too much. We need to look for him and the Aubameyang replacements. Again, I'd actually give him a new extension, you know, again, without talking about money, provided he's going to have a marginalized role, just because realistically, if we're going into next season with David Luiz as first choice, we're only going to get so far. In the same way, we're only going to get so far as a football club with Granit Xhaka being pivotal to our build-up play. That's what I believe.
I just think like 1 year wouldn't like kill us. And like in an ideal situation where we're ran properly, we shouldn't be relying on David Luiz. He shouldn't even be here. But he's here because we've ran the club into the ground. You know, well, not us, you know, but obviously the owners and the executives have run the club into the ground. And now we have him here. So I'm just thinking from, you know, the standpoint of, would I rather see like, I cannot see a complement of center backs that is Marie, Holding, Saliba, and Gabriel. I just can't see it.
Sorry to cut you off, but we don't protect these players when they get old. Like, we didn't protect Koscielny. I don't think we're going to protect David Luiz. We don't kind of understand that they can't do what they could tomorrow. So that's why I'm kind of scared for it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, yeah. So because Arteta just seems to need some more experience around him, I guess, to get his ideas across, to give him some, you know, some clout, if you want to call it that. You know, if you have David Luiz following your directions, everybody else will kind of follow suit. So for me, it's like, I cannot see him having Gabriel and Saliba starting together without David Luiz involved in some way. And
he's a bridge player.
And I'm sorry, but I don't love Holding as much as you do. So it's like,
Holding's the squad player, man. Like, Holding can leave, or Holding's the squad player. I just like the guy, man. There's something likable about him, but I can understand why people are done with him for 100%.
Yeah. And it's just unfortunate because he's 25, but I feel like we're still dealing with like a 21-year-old kind of, you know, he hasn't developed enough. So yeah, but we'll see what happens. If Luiz got an extension, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be super upset. But the caveat there is Saliba has to come back. If he's loaned out or sold, I don't think I'll survive it. I just don't think so. Like, I don't know. I just, you know, you have some players where you barely kind of seen him play. You know, he's kind of shaky, whatever, but you just like him. That's just it for me. He's my Gabriel Martinelli.
He described Bob Holding, man.
But you know, Saliba's better than Holding. You know this.
Clear of him. Saliba, Gabriel, and the new centre half is the three I'd build around. Chambers, Holding, David Luiz. You lot be the squad guys, innit? Like, you lot do
like we're still talking about Holding and Chambers. It's been like how many years with these guys?
It's been about 10 years. We need to give it up, man. Wenger was here when they were still doing their thing. We need to give it up, man. For real.
I'm so done with. But that being said, I think there's bigger issues than Rob Holding and Chambers. You know, Ryan looked great yesterday, and you kind of hinted to it. Like, do you think Ryan needs to play against Villarreal, and we need to drop Leno? You know, I'm not sure how I personally feel about it, but you know, do you think Ryan, with his command of the box and seem like he's in better form, do you think that that's something that Arteta will consider? Do you think that's something that could happen? Because if you drop Leno in this important game, can't use him anymore. For me, you're looking for a new goalkeeper in the summer.
I agree, but I disagree. I think while I agree with that, and I think I 100% agree with that, I just feel in games, in reality, you know, if you feel, regardless of who's better than who, if Matt Ryan's in the better form and he's looking better, I go with him. I don't see him playing, you know, I would like to see, like I said, Saka left back, Gabriel in something. I don't see him making all those changes. I think it's either you'll see a Gabriel come in and Leno will start, or you'll see Leno dropped out for Matt Ryan. One thing I'll give Leno, you know, he's been shaky all season and had some good moments. Last game against these lot, he kind of did all right. I would go with Matt Ryan because, like I said, I think it's a game for character. And I just feel whatever people say about Matt Ryan, you can see him keeping a cool head. You can see him G'ing people up. And I think it's a very psychological game. And I think Matt Ryan has that calmness about him. I can see him reasserting himself and things. So Matt Ryan would get the nod over me because his communication is better. He seems a cooler head. He's in the better form. I just think it's a game for character, and I think Matt Ryan's got that in abundance. And like somebody said, there is commanding of the area. We saw what happened there in the last game. So I'd say that, man.
You guys in the chat box, let us know. Would you start Ryan against Villarreal and drop Leno? I just feel it's really risky. I think it's the right decision in terms of who's in form and who's not, but the repercussions, I just don't think you can play Leno anymore. I just don't think so. I think the last thing Leno wants to feel is pressure. You know, I think the Martinez pressure messed him up a little bit, and he hasn't really, you know, recovered. And of course, you should feel pressure in every position that you play, but we have a lot of players that don't. I think this is maybe a systematic issue of Arsenal for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, is that they're so comfortable in their spot. So if there's any little bit of friction there at all, they capitulate because they're just not used to it. You know, so with Leno, I think if he feels like his spot is under threat, he's out. He's done.
But this is the same. But I hear that. But this is the same goalie he was saying. Oh, I got to think about 2 years. I agree with what you're saying. I probably would go with Leno, but I more want Matt Ryan because I don't feel Leno's been good enough. Same way. That being said, that's the problem with this club. You know, of course, I'd be gutted if I was dropped, but like, you know, you need to leave your ego at the door. I don't feel any footballer, but with the occasion of Saka, is really an undoubted, undisputed starter. Leno will start. I hope I'm talking into existence more. Like Leno will have a great performance, but I just don't think he's done well enough. And again, you can make yourself a hero. If he did get the hump, then get the hump. You know, I think Leno is the better keeper. Leno will be the one that starts, but that's what Arteta will do. But if Arteta genuinely wanted to start Matt Ryan, start him. And the same goes for everyone. You know, we've seen our captain drop for a North London derby because his form was dead. If you're not hacking it, you need to get dropped out of the team, really. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's how it should be. It just hasn't been that way. You can tell these players are not used to it. You could just tell, you know, and I don't know. Leno should think about this. Like, if your position feels like it's always under threat and a goalkeeper just needs to come in and have a couple decent performances and be commanding in their box, and we're looking at you, I just think Leno, confidence is, to me, on the floor. He doesn't seem confident, but he's also not the type of goalkeeper that you want if you want to play possession. I think he's better when you're getting battered, you know, when you're constantly getting shots against, you know, he's better in that, but he loses focus when we have possession and he's not great with his feet and he gets frazzled. And then the one time that we need you to make the save, you don't make it, you know? So maybe long-term, maybe this summer or next summer, we need to look at a different goalkeeper if we want to continue to play this way. But I think he's off anyway. Something just tells me that something with the goalkeeper coaches was weird too, not too long ago. So I think he's off anyway. But in this game, personally, for me, I would start Leno just because if we don't win or something crazy happens or Matty Ryan has one little mistake, that's it. You know,
you can see the headlines being drawn. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, but there's some links to Szczesny, you know, that because Juventus is looking at Donnarumma, I think he's like a free transfer or something like that. So Szczesny's looking for a way out and he wants to come back to the Emirates to smoke in the locker room, apparently. You know, what do you think about Szczesny and just the goalkeeper situation in general? You know, is that a priority for you this summer, or do you think Leno's just fine?
Do you know what? As mad as Leno, I feel this. I feel two sides of the coin in a sense of, like you said, if we're trying to build long term, then I think you need to look for another goalkeeper because I think Leno can ball play, but he cannot do it consistently to the standard we need. And I think psychologically he's not there. That being said, I think to be fair to Leno, there's been times where as poor as he's been, we've got battered and he's been a good player. And I feel one thing I'll give Leno, he hasn't had a decent defense since he was brought into this team. When Leno was brought, we should have known what we're doing with the back 4-5, including him. It would be priority of mine, but then again, you centre half, right back, centre middle too. These are the areas I'm looking at. So maybe if it can be done, if scouts put something tangible on the table, I'm definitely looking at a goalkeeper. But I think, there's bigger problems than Leno. I do think if the team was kind of fixed in the way we'd all want, you can get away with Leno really and truly. He saved us many times. I don't think he's lost his quality, but even when Leno was in the best of form, I had my question marks. Like it's been quite like I said it on Twitter, 2019, he's shaky. I think he's a good player, but his catching is shaky. He's not really vocal enough. His distribution can be hit and miss. His concentration isn't quite there. You don't turn bad overnight, but it is something I'd be looking at. I think Leno's cool enough to be second choice, but I don't know. I don't know with a lot of these players. It's like a lot of them are probably considering their future. And if we're real with ourselves, we were told if there's 2 years left on their deal, we're sorting it out. Leno, Granit Xhaka, Chambers, Bellerin, Lacazette, all different statures in the team. There's a lot to be done. And I've mentioned these before we talk about who needs to come in and the other problems. So, and I don't agree with that comment. I do think, fans need to be a bit fair. You can be committed to the club, but consider something else. How many of you have been at a job, you're doing the job to your best ability, but you're looking at other job offers? Some of you look at job offers while you're at work and you're talking about Leno's commitment. Like, I'm sorry, I do think he's committed. He's just playing poor. Sometimes people overdo it, but I respect everyone's opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it just depends on what our long-term and short-term goals are. And he has been good for us. Like, I think recency biases can be really dangerous. He's not great right now, but he has saved us in the past. And we've been poor. He's been playing with Mustafi,
Played
and
with some
Stratus, and Kolasinac.
Even this year.
Yeah.
Moving half around all the time.
Exactly. So I think it's, we'll see what happens in the summertime. I don't think, for me, I would prefer not to have to get a goalkeeper this summer because that cuts into the funds for things that we really need. And I think Leno could survive for like another year or so before he wants to go wherever, because I feel like he wants to go back to Germany. I just have this feeling, but yeah, let me read out some of these comments. Let's see what you guys are saying. You guys are so hilarious sometimes. AK Gunner says Szczesny at his stage of his career is not a good idea to buy. He's on decline. How old is he? Like, our goalkeepers have been so bad. Once they leave, I just kind of forget about them. Now, Munia, this guy, Espina.
Oh, my word. Don't say that name.
Which one?
Almunia. So many vivid memories come back with that crap keeper, man. 06, a couple of North London derbies. Just about any half-decent effort Almunia was letting in. Absolute shambles of a goalie. Ospina's another one that was terrible. My word, we've had some crap keepers, man.
Everything after Jens Lehmann has been suspect for us. Even Czech was not good for us. He was an agent, if I've ever seen one. I thought he was so bad. You could tell he was losing it. He was so bad.
It's just, you know what it is? It's like, that's the thing. I don't know what it is, but it's like when we buy these players on the decline, it's like their age is seen. Other teams, you're able to hide it. Like if Fernandinho was at Arsenal, we'd be saying he's 30 this, he's 30 that. He looks about 21 at City. That's why I'm scared of giving David Luiz a new deal, because we don't protect these players. His legs are going to go. Help them man out. Instead, we overplay them and we make them part of a circus. So it's scary. In relation to Szczesny, I don't even think it's an age thing. It's like, when you was at Arsenal, your professionalism was on the floor. You've now been at Juventus and you've won stuff and you've done stuff. What motivation is there to be at Arsenal? And you was Arteta's teammate. I'm not saying he's sinister, but come on now. I'm very scared of this teammate stuff, really and truly.
Yeah, for sure. he just, I mean, we know you guys get away with that crap all the time, smoking in the locker rooms or whatever you guys do in Italy, because we know that the rules are different, but we can't have you. I could just see Arteta. We need to find out where this butt of the cigarette came from. Where is it? Like, who got it? Because, you know, Arteta's like big on finding the mole and finding the guy. You know, he's
Eradicating
so
the poison.
paranoid. The guy's paranoid.
I'd be paranoid at Arsenal too, man. Arsenal probably F up everyone if they're manager, if you manage the club, man.
He's aged 5 years already. He's aged quick. He got that Obama age quick, you know, you getting a job.
The minute he joined us, like Arsenal stresses you out. It proper does. I have sympathy for these guys.
I do too. I'm like, dang, I would never want that job. Like, I wouldn't want it. Like, you couldn't give it to me. First of all, I'd be sacked in like a day. You guys wouldn't like me. You wouldn't like me at all. I'd bench everybody. Forget it. You know, but let's get back on topic. So let's talk about Arteta. So I want to ask you about his style, you know, his whatever his style is, you know, but this is what he said when he first came to the club. He said, I want the ball. I want to attack them as much as possible. I want to prevent them from attacking me as much as possible. But as well, I think we have to create the right culture around the club. That's going to make a good living out of the players, create an environment where everybody respects everyone and humility, and people have been accountable for what we want to achieve. You know, I think some of these things are cool. You know, he says we have to have passion. We have to be dominant. We have to be aggressive. We have to play in the opponent's territory as much as we want. That's not really what we've seen, Arteta. It's not. Yeah. So it's not really what we've seen, you know, but I think we've seen glimpses of some of that, but not really that consistently. Why do you think his philosophy isn't manifesting itself on the field as of yet?
I think there's two sides to that question. I feel clearly the players are not good enough. Clearly the players will show you, they can show you for 2 games that they can do this, and then they'll show you for 10 that they can't. You know, they're a poor bunch of players. They can't really understand what Arteta wants. You know, a lot of what Arteta wants in terms of patterns of playing these things, these players can't do the basics in their position. So how can they do that? And I think every Arsenal fan has seen players just, there's been times Arteta set us up perfectly and you've seen lapses in concentration. This guy kills me. But the same flip token of that, Arteta has overcomplicated things. I think Arteta has, you know, and the players would mess you up. Arteta's tried to do too much and ultimately done nothing. I think he's overcomplicated a lot of things. I do think there's been an element of waffling. You know, I see a bit of it. You know, he says, what did you say there? You said something along the lines of he wants to stop the team attacking us. I see a bit of an improvement defensively, you know, a tiny bit, but it's not levels. You know, we've still got nine red cards collectively this season. We're still up there for cheap goals conceded and goals conceded. You know, for me, I always say, like Pep Guardiola said, his first attacker is his goalie, his first defender is his striker. You're a disciple of Pep Guardiola. So why do we not have consistent pressing? Is that down to you or is that down to the players? If it is down to you, as much as I have sympathy for as poor these players are, is it how you're communicating with them? Because at times it has felt, you know, it's been a long season. It almost feels like it's been 5 seasons in one. You know, we've come a long way from William playing through the middle. We've come a long way from, you know, baffling decisions, playing 3 at the back and all of these sort of things. And I think he's tried to do too much. I don't think he's really doubled down. Like you said earlier, when it comes to the Smith Rowes and these sort of guys, I think it really took him a lot to really realize it's not rocket science. Play the best players in their best positions consistently. You get something. He's chopping and changing too much. And for me, the biggest problem with Arteta is not that he's inexperienced. He keeps putting his hand in the fire and getting burned. He's not learning lessons, and old habits die hard. So I do think Arteta is trying. I do think it is a process. I do think he struggled, but a lot of it is lip service. A lot of it isn't matching up, you know. And when your back's against the wall and we see bravery or cowardness, I think he has been a bit cowardly at times.
It's so amazing to me how easy it is for you to get a job at Arsenal. Like, he's saying all these things, and I just feel like after, you know, look at Emery and Raul and now Arteta, I feel like because the ownership doesn't really know what it takes, they hire people that say the right things, have the right credentials in their mind. And, you know, Arteta, I think, has all the potential in the world to be a really good manager. And we can look 5 years down the line, whether he's at Arsenal or not, and we could be looking at a really good coach. He has a lot of backing from other managers that seem to think he knows what he's doing.
A lot of propaganda.
Yeah. But, you know, Arsenal is not the club that needs to be having a novice manager in the condition that we're in. You know, we need to shoot up the table as quick as possible, and we have very mediocre resources, and he's not getting the most out of the players that he has. And he's did a complete switch from trying to play a way that really suits the players. I think what we saw after lockdown is kind of what suits the players the best. They're not great in possession. They're not technically gifted. So, but we do have runners and we're good on counterattack. And when we leaned into that and we're really sound defensively, I think we got better results. And as soon as we opened up and tried to play more progressively, you saw the inconsistencies come in because these players can't play that way. Not all of them, not at a consistent high level. And, that's just kind of how I see it. But do you think Arteta needs to kind of compromise until he gets the players that he needs to play this way? And because, I mean, he basically said he's 6 players away from playing his style, and he's not getting those players, not all 6 this summer.
Of course. On one hand, as a manager, you have to come in regardless of the playing staff, do what you're doing, your stamp your authority. But on the other hand, you need to adapt to the tools you have. So while I have sympathy, sometimes I think he's gone out there and given us basic instructions and he struggled. Maybe you need to go back to basics. Maybe you need to play players in their right way. Maybe you can't play as intricate as you want. So I do think he needs to get a bit more out of the players. And I'm not speaking about the players we know aren't good enough. I'm speaking about the handful of players that we know, regardless of what manager would come in, whether it's Arteta or not, or in 5 years' time, you could genuinely picture a future that they're here with the ones that are old enough. I don't think he's got enough out of them. You haven't really. I feel sorry for him because any decent club brings in a midfielder with Partey. He didn't get one, but he's not looked to mitigate against that. I haven't seen anything to suggest how are you going to get them rough patches out of Gabriel? How are you going to get them out of Saliba? What are we gonna do to take Martinelli to the next level? Eventually, we're gonna ask for the same of Saka and Smith Rowe. So I haven't seen enough. And somebody said he's stubborn there. You need to be stubborn, but you need to have humility as well. And that's why I said his inexperience for me isn't the problem. One thing I liked, the moment he stepped in at this club, we didn't speak about his inexperience. It's learning from his mistakes. Has he whether Xhaka has worked or not? Because there's been some games good at left back. Has he looked at it after and went, okay, that he worked well at left back because of X, Y, Z, or it didn't work for this. I'm not going to try that. At times, it does feel like, I don't want to say, he doesn't want to win and he doesn't feel pressure, but it feels like that because he knows he's not getting the sack, you can do several sort of things, people, and things like that. Somebody said he's learning on the job. He is, but he's not learning, is he? Because he's doing several of the same thing, And I don't think, I don't want Arteta gone. I want to see if he can get it turned around, really and truly. But if he goes, I'm not going to cry. I do think this is where fans go wrong. It's almost illegal to ask questions of Arteta, really and truly. And it's right. He does lack trust. But at the same time, if you can't trust your players to do something, do other things. Because when you talk about a lack of pre-season and all these things, they're valid. But everybody else had it. You had a pre-season. You had a couple of weeks, whatever, with no fixtures to do something. You had the backdrop of last season. A lot of what I've seen this season, I should have seen this freestyling towards the end of last year. I don't like to use Chelsea or Thomas Tuchel. It's different. But the minute my man's come in, they're not asking these questions beyond the obvious. So it says it there, man.
Yeah, for sure. I want Arteta to, well, first of all, what I see out there in terms of coaches is not what I think. I really don't think, even if there's a good manager available, I don't trust that Edu and the Cronkies will be able to figure out who that coach is and bring them in. There's also, a lot of people talk about wanting a more experienced manager. It's not about experience, really, because Emery was more experienced and he was not great at Arsenal either. He was okay, but he wasn't great. For me, it's about finding the right fit for where we are at the moment. So we probably just need a manager that could get the most out of what we have, because they're not going to give Arteta the money quick enough.
Exactly.
And so I think it's kind of, for me, it's not if he gets sacked, it's when, because I just don't believe in this ownership. I just don't think he's going to make it. That's just me. I just don't.
That's where I think he'll last it out, because they're doubling down on him. They know that I think it's a relationship of mutual interest, like you said, bag of experience. I don't think, obviously, I think Arteta is not happy about things, but I don't think if you had a Jose or an Emre or someone with a bit more of a CV, they're going to get a bit mad over things the Cronkies are doing. So it's one where they can kind of mold him. He can be there for a while. He's not really going to make too much of a fuss. You don't have to blame your owners directly, but there's a way of answering questions. And Antonio Conte was brilliant at it, especially at all the clubs he's went. Mikel Arteta is willing to take all the bullets for the Kroenkes, rightly or wrongly. We all know the truth, but he's taking them. So as an owner, if you was as sinister as the Kroenkes, you know, you strike better luck. So Arteta knew, as much as I feel sorry for him, he knew what he was walking into to a slight degree. I can't lie.
Yeah, he definitely did. And people have to remember that it's not just about bringing in a manager is not just about identifying him. We already know that they're going to have a hard time identifying a manager. Then you have to, are you going to be willing to pay that manager? Because a better manager is going to want way more than what Arteta wants. So you're going to have to pay Arteta and pay another manager. And then are they going to commit to the amount of money that that manager would need to turn the squad around? So those are three major things. Can they identify him? Are they going to pay him? And are they going to pay for the resources? If you don't do all three, there's no point in even changing. That's why bringing in Jose Mourinho, even though Spurs was willing to, you know, bring him in and pay what it takes to have him, they weren't going to get him the players that he would want or he would need to do what he wants to do. So, you know, I think we're in bed with Arteta until his luck runs out or it just gets so bad, you know, that we just know we're not going anywhere. If they don't do what they need to do, we could be potentially mid-table next season as well. You know, so there's a lot of work to be done, but I'm not necessarily very confident that it'll get done. But, you know, for you, his future, you know, how much does winning or losing the Europa League influence your opinion on his future at Arsenal? You know,
I mean,
if he won it, you know, would that change how you feel about him?
I mean, it wouldn't change too much, but I mean, you have to give him his flowers. He would have been here for 2 years, 2 titles. He would have been the first manager post Wenger to deliver us back into the Champions League. He would have got Europe, where in my lifetime, this is the I was looking a bit dodgy. So he would have done all right. It wouldn't change much, you know, again, because I know you can galvanize them for a cup. You've done it already. You know, it wouldn't tell over the 38 game league calendar is where I wanted to learn a lot about Arteta. And I'm still not really. I don't think if he wins, it's great. If he loses, I think it's good for him. I don't think he was ever going to be sacked. I think, you know, the COVID, the preseason, getting rid of players in January, all of these sort of things are luxuries he can hide behind. If this stuff happens next season is where, you know, then I don't think he makes it out of the new year. Well, at the end of this year, if it continues, really.
You guys are killing me in the comments. What the heck?
In bed with Arteta.
Sorry. But I mean, we are. You guys know what I mean. You guys know what I mean. You guys, they always clock me for whatever I say. Apparently, I don't pronounce Nketiah right. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it.
That's how I say it. So if you're saying it wrong, then what am I doing? But I'm not the guy for pronunciations. I butcher names all the time.
You guys have to give me some grace on that. Like, come on, you know. But what are you guys talking about? You guys are crazy. All right, so here's a question. New Dawn Games, Joe, that I just found out your name is Joe, asked if Arteta goes, which manager would you want? Who do you think we could actually get? He wants Simeone.
I'm not on the same. Do you know what? I'm at the point now where I just want to see good football. So just get me Sarri or Gasperini for all their problems. I just want to see a million passes. I'm a Wenger baby. That's all I want now, man. If we're not going to get anything else, let's just make our football the envy of the world again. So I would say that all the Nagelsmans and these things are gone. I wasn't a fan of Brendan Rodgers per se, but every season that goes on, I'm more joining his fan club. And the way he's moving at Leicester, if that could be done, I would love him. But if I'm him, regardless of the prestige of Arsenal and the stature of Arsenal, when you get past that romance, I wouldn't leave Leicester for Arsenal because the project is dead here compared to there. They're trying to do things. So them lot is the names I'll go for, really, beyond the obvious.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know, because I like Nagelsmann, but he's gone. Ten Hag just signed a new contract, and that's probably the person that I would have. He has enough experience. He's used to dealing with youth, you know, that kind of thing. But he's gone. So, and I don't really believe in the whole Potter / Hasenhüttl thing, because it's easier to do well in a team that doesn't have very many expectations. You know, you come to Arsenal and all of a sudden you start looking like Arteta, gray and pale and not eating, all skinny and stuff, so nah, I don't think they'll make it. I don't think they'll make it. I mean, Hasenhutl's struggling where he's at already, so not for me, but it would just, I want to see Arteta. I want to see what they do in the summer. I just can't think about coaches right now because he's not going anywhere right now. Dev said, who would you replace you guys are asking the same questions. You're asking the same questions. That's something different. You guys don't see any more questions. If I don't see any more questions, we're going to leave. So
yeah, get your questions in, folks, man. What's going on?
Yeah, you guys get in a couple of questions because usually they put them like way up here, but they know they come at the end. So you guys know the drill. I don't know why you guys put them way up at the top. Let's see. Well, you guys don't have any more questions. You guys have let me down. At least like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Come on, man said, what toothpaste do you use? This guy.
Are you talking to me?
Someone just said in the comments, these guys are crazy, man.
Newman is crazy. Who else? There's somebody else in here. You guys are insane. And Velvishwan, of course, because you're a Liverpool fan that's watching my stream. I don't understand. Oh, here's a good one from Velvishwan. Who is your Arsenal strongest 11?
What current?
Do we have one?
Ooh, yeah, do we have one? Current available ones. Well, if assuming everyone was fit and not talking about their contexts, again, if everyone's fitting on their day, I think Leno is the better keeper than Matt Ryan. My problems with him is just his current form. I have my question marks over him, but I'll go Leno, Gabriel, David Luiz, left back, Tierney, of course, right back, there's nobody else. I go with Cedric, 4-3-2-1. 4-3-2-1, sorry. Midfield 3, Partey, Granit Xhaka. Oh, Odegaard or Smith Rowe. One of them got to get in the team. I'll go with Smith Rowe because he's a permanent player for us. Saka on the right, Pepe on the left. I'll go Martinelli through the middle, because I think that's the front three we should be working on, really, until we get rid of, Aubameyang's moved on or we bring someone in. I feel harsh leaving out Lacazette, and obviously if Aubameyang's doing his thing, Aubameyang's in, Martinelli out, but that would be it, man. That would be mine.
Yeah, for sure. Mine's pretty similar to that, so I don't need to do mine. But right back replacement, what are your thoughts on that? And Selleck at Lille?
I ain't seen too much of him to comment, to be fair with you, but anyone could be better than Bellerin. So hopefully the scouts do their jobs, man. Is that the Turkish international? Or, if that's the Turkish guy, I've seen that name, then I think he's all right. But if it's not, then I haven't got an opinion on him.
Yeah, you guys know, I think we have to go for like Emerson Royale or somebody like that. I really don't want somebody short. Sorry, but Lamptey is too small to play in the back line for me.
You reckon? I think it's a fitness thing for him, man. I think he's decent, man.
I don't like it. I just personally, I just don't like it, but I think he's good. If we got him, I'd be like,
is he shorter than Bellerin?
He's like 5'5". He's 5'5".
He's got to this stage. I'll back him. Go on.
He's shorter than
Saka. He's pushing it out.
I mean, if you guys don't like Bellerin because he can't defend, then you definitely won't like Lamptey because his dribble pass numbers are not great either. And it's just the injury too. Max Aarons is a good shout. I think if we got him, that would be cool. But I like Emerson because of his stature. I like the way he plays, and he's like super athletic. And I think we really lack athleticism in our team. If we can see the Premier League is leaving us behind. Everybody has athletes. I could name the athletes that we have on our team, true athletes, like maybe 5, and other teams have so many athletes, and you have to be able to play the basketball game. You have to be able to go, coast to coast.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're dead at that. We have Ceballos.
To be fair, we're the best in the team at that. That's the problem. It's crazy.
So sad. Nenny is one of our best midfielders. Keep Laka or look for a top striker?
Well, really and truly, the minute Aubameyang signed the new deal, this club should have been looking for a striker. From an emotional point of view, I would like to keep Lacazette. For a real, there should be a plan to move him on and look to do stuff elsewhere. So if there isn't a plan, you might as well keep him. If there is, bring in that top striker, broski.
Yeah, striker for me is not a priority this summer for me because we need to fix the midfield. It's just so bad, But I mean, if we had to get a striker, or if we could, I would want one. I just don't know who it would be.
Yeah, I think Arteta wants one. because he don't really rate. I think he likes Eddie, Aubameyang, and Lacazette, but something is there's something in the back of his head not really allowing him to play them all consistently for a 38 game period through the middle. So if there was, I think he'll look for a striker, man. I think he would.
Yeah, just don't know who that would be. Just
Yeah,
don't know.
age or
That's
question.
Edu's job. Edu needs to do some magic. He needs to get it together. If we put Saka at left back, who is actually going to drive into the penalty box as right wing, I see no one doing it effectively.
Pepe, Martinelli, come on now. Let's be a bit fair. In fact, Saka can still, Tierney does that, you can still get forward, really and truly. And plus, we got to remember, Xhaka at centre mid, I know it feels like a long time ago, but he would screen indirectly for Saka at left back and things like that, and for Tierney. So I think we would, man. I think Saka would do a lot. The problem is, I do agree with you. We lose hell of a lot, Matthew, on that right flank. But let's be real, Pepe could do half a job. Martinelli could do half a job on the flanks. We should be able to get through that realistically, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it's much of an issue, to be honest. I think, honestly, I think Saka is going to be playing on the right wing.
Yeah,
so
Xhaka left back.
Xhaka left back. But we have good players up top. They just need to be able to do what they do best, and I think sometimes with the strict nature in which we play, it's difficult.
There's no freedom
for that. Exactly. And Pepe is just like a straight up baller. He may not do the basics really well, but when you see some of the things that he does, he's a highlight reel type of guy, so you need to allow him to be free.
And I think even that, Pepe is becoming a bit more complete nowadays. That's one thing I give Arteta. It's no longer just flashes. He's more in the game for the consistency of it.
Yeah, I like Pepe a lot. At first I was like, he has to go. But I was actually just really bitter that they spent that 72 million on not a defender and not a CDM, so it just took me a while to get used to him. But I think I like him now. Last question. This is why I was thinking about this morning, because I really have I've changed my opinion on this. But what does Odegaard have to do to convince you he should be signed in the summer?
I mean, he doesn't really have to convince me of much, because we're not going to bring him better. I think he's a half decent player and things like that. But if I'm real with you, he's shown flashes of brilliance, and I've changed my opinion and changed it again. He ain't really done enough. He ain't done a lot. And to be fair, you don't have to do a lot. He ain't done a lot to make it we need to sign him. We need to sign him. I'm like that, but it's not what he's done. He's convinced me in it. He's fitted in well. He looks, the best and worst praise I can give him is on the worst of days, he looks like an Arsenal player. On the best of days, he looks like an Arsenal player. I would keep him because he's got the ability and he's got resale value and stuff. But if people out there want to see maybe more goals, more assists, just running the game a bit more, because I did even feel against Newcastle, he was cute. He was even involved for the second goal, but there needs to be a bit more. For me, I would love to take him permanently. I think we've got more of a chance getting him on a loan thing, really. And that's hard, Newman. Wow.
They're so killing me with table losers. I can't. No, I was thinking this morning. I was like, I don't know. If we can't get him on a loan, I don't know if I'd do it, because they're going to want a lot for him.
Big bucks, yeah.
Or something like that. And from what I've seen so far, I like him. And I know he has 40 to 50 million, even probably more potential. But as of now, he's not that player. He's good, but he still needs to develop. And from what I've seen from him, this is definitely not his best. He's a little far off from that. But we've only seen a couple of games from him, and it would just be a little bit over the top, I think, to spend that money on him right now. A loan would be ideal, but I'm kind of like BWA. I think I would prefer something I know. Buendia I know can play in the Premier League really well, and I like his aggression. And I think a lot of teams are going more towards the Grealish types and the Mount types, and they're a little bit more well-rounded. Whereas Odegaard is kind of like a modern Ozil, and I'm not sure
emotions
and he gets bumped off the ball really easy. And what I do know about Buendia is he can be a little bit of a dick and run you down and do that kind of stuff, the pressing. So we'll see what happens. But that's it for the show, you guys. I think this was a lot of fun.
Trust me.
We made a lot out of a really boring 2-0 win against Newcastle. We made a lot out of it. So we hope you guys like the show. I know a lot of you guys are from Deluded's channel. You guys love him. But for the people that don't, know you, where can they find you, and what are you up to this week?
Oh, I haven't been asked that in a while. Thanks for asking. What I'm up to this week, so I'll be doing watch-alongs almost every day. There's Europa League action, there's Champions League. I normally stream at 11:30 a.m. UK time. You can find me on Deludicuna04. That's all my socials. Obviously, YouTube, you just type in Deludicuna and you'll find what you need to find. And yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on all of that, really. Thanks for having me, Jess.
Yeah, of course, no problem. And you guys remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm really close to 1,000 subscribers, so if you guys would help me out, that would be amazing. And in a couple of hours, I really should have the time. Why am I'm so crap? In 2 hours, basically. What time is it now? Hold on. What time is it now? Is it 8:15 where you guys are? Where is it? What time is it? Deluded, help me. Is it 6?
In the UK, bro, it's 16 minutes past 6 here.
Okay. 8 p.m. UK time, I'll be back to talk about Basuma. We're calling it the
2 hours,
Basuma
basically, folks. Just under 2 hours.
Okay, so just under 2 hours. You guys, I'm so bad with the conversion, but come back here. We'll talk about Basuma. We'll just talk about the rumors and whether he's the right person. You guys know I'm going to say yes, and you guys can agree with me or disagree with me. So be back here in a little under 2 hours. And yeah, you guys, we'll talk to you on the next one, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.
Peace.